I thought I was after the independence, but I'm always happy to speak on a €2.3 billion package which is before us. And I think it's worth acknowledging the scale of the intervention in terms of the social welfare budget. And I suppose there will always be criticism in this House about political priorities and so on, but the ESRI, I think, is a respected body, and even their independent analysis says that the total budgetary package is progressive, and the research estimates that it will result in reductions in the at-risk of poverty rate. So I think that is a very clear and independent assessment of what happened in the course of the budget, what is happening in the course of this House passing the social welfare bill. And I suppose it underlines the efforts within this government to try and ensure those people who are really struggling with the cost of living increases, and we accept that. Many of those sources of that cost of living increase come from international factors, and we don't have to go through them all here. But this government is trying to use the national levers that we have to deal with those international incidents, to ensure that the people who put us in this House on all sides can cope with that. And I suppose this week I've been speaking to many older people who've recently received the fuel allowance, Minister, and despite it being a measure in last year's budget, there's still many people only coming around to realising that they're eligible for it now. And it's many people who would never have been eligible for social welfare supports in the past, but who are now earning up to 26 or 52,000 as a couple and benefit from that social welfare, that fuel allowance payment. And when you couple that with the once-off energy credits and with the once-off payments, I think the ESRI is correct in saying that we have managed to reduce the at-risk of poverty rates for many people, and that these measures continue to try and keep people's incomes who are reliant on social welfare ahead of the inflationary rate. Now, we have done that in two ways, and the ESRI also goes on to comment on the once-off nature of some of these payments. And there's no doubt that the once-off nature is a factor. There's many of our critics that suggested the once-off nature last year wouldn't be repeated, that we wouldn't keep track with inflation, that we would pull the rug on the people we're trying to protect. And that didn't happen. And that didn't happen because the government were committed to, again, trying to ensure that we protected people. Now, I welcome the use of once-off rates in this short period, because we do need to have the flexibility when changing inflation rates come about, that when costs increase and when they decrease, that we can respond to them. Now, I suppose, should that inflation rate become embedded over time, we will inevitably have to look at embedding those once-off rates into the core rate. But to do that at this stage, I think, would be irresponsible. And I think we have to continue to look at our financial situation. And as I say, the once-off measures, I believe, is a very important way for us to try and maintain that balance. Minister, I also want to thank you for the measures that we've taken in terms of carers and providing a pension for those people who are caring. You know, many people out there contribute huge parts of their lives to caring for people within their family and within their wider circle. And it's only right that when they get to the retirement age, that they have the right to retire like anybody else. And this, Minister, taps into something that I think this week we've responded to with the new rates of unemployment benefit for people who find themselves out of work. There has been a feeling that when pay-related social insurance was introduced, you got something for your PRSI. So if you worked, you contributed to the PRSI scheme and you retained certain benefits, like any insurance product. And unfortunately, over time, mostly because we have sought to protect those people who are most vulnerable, it appears that those people who are contributing are not getting any additional benefit from contributing. They appear to be receiving the same benefit as those people who were protecting it, and that's not. And I can hear Paul Murphy suggesting that I'm somehow trying to criticise those people who are on social welfare. I'm not. What I'm saying is, if you're paying into the scheme, you're paying an additional amount into the scheme, there should be benefits which are pay-related social insurance. I believe in that concept. I believe in that scheme, and one of those is the pension, Minister. Now, those people who contribute and those on a contributing and those people who are not on a contributing pension, you know, there's not much of a difference between the two. And that, as I say, we're victims of our own attempts to try and protect people who are the most vulnerable and to ensure that they're on a standard of living. But we do also have to acknowledge that when you pay into your PRSI, there should be some additional benefit for you having contributed over that time. And I welcome the Minister's contributions this week to Cabinet and the announcements afterwards, that if you find yourself in unemployed circumstances, that you will receive an increased payment beyond what the basic would have been up until these measures. And I think the benefit of that is to say to people, if you contribute to your PRSI, there is a definite benefit to you. So I welcome that, Minister. And the other thing I did think you did, Minister, this week, and I think the government did it as well, and that was we underscored the financial basis of the pension age staying at 66 by putting in place very strong and I would say prudent measures to fund that going forward. We're not just throwing out a glib promise that it'll be done. We're not saying it in the course of an election. We've put in place a foundation now that should leave the pension rate at the age of retirement, which, by the way, it has always been, despite others suggesting that it was lower. And I think in doing that, we have again said that by contributing into the PRSI scheme, there is a benefit for doing that. Minister, I'd encourage you to go further. Let's look at other ways that we can reward people who are contributing to the PRSI scheme, to say if you've worked all your life, you've paid those stamps, there's an additional benefit which you receive, beyond the level of protection which we have to provide and should provide to people who need it, but that there's additional benefits for those people who contribute significantly. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Deputy. We move now to the Regional Independent